You know what a clear conscience feels like. It feels good. It feels freeing. It feels good. Um, you also know what a not clear conscience feels like. You feel guilty and burdened. Something's not right. In a very real sense, a guilty conscience produces emotional pain. The function of pain is to get our attention. You sprain your ankle, the pain instantly goes to your brain and says, hey, figure out how to get us off this foot. So you hop around because the pain has been a signal something's not right. Well, that's really what your conscience is all about. To It causes you emotional pain when something's not right. Now, here's one of the most important things about your conscience. It can, in fact, I was going to say it can be educated. The truth is, it will be educated, and in fact, it must be educated. Where do you get your conscience? Well, I believe you get your conscience as a gift to God. It's part of how He has designed and put human beings together. Then we got to have, where did the content come from? Where did the values that drive the dynamics of your conscience? Well, they come from this thing I call the education of your conscience. And that happens through, I think we have some fundamental things logged into our conscience from the beginning. The fundamental things about what is right and what is wrong, without necessarily the backstory of why these things are wrong, what makes them right or wrong. Our conscience then has to be educated so that we not only will be able to identify these fundamental things that are right or wrong, because that they are not the only things in life that are either right or wrong. I will say almost all the issues of right or wrong go back to the basic fundamentals. And where do you find those? Well, ideally, what would happen in our mind is that when we hear, for instance, the 10 words, the 10 commandments, there will be a resonation in our heart and mind, because this defines right and wrong. The especially when it comes to the relational human aspects of don't kill, don't commit adultery, don't covet, don't steal, don't bear false witness. There's something about all that resonates with your, I would just have to say, your innate conscience. Other things have to be educated into the conscience. Now, why am I talking about conscience? Well, it's because it's next. We're coming out of the bullpen now with 2 Timothy 1, verse 3. I thank God, whom I serve as my ancestors did, with a clear conscience. Okay, let's kind of just go. Let's walk through this. I thank God. I learned and have to re-educate myself. I have to relearn it, which seems pitiful to me, but it is just a fact. When I was in the 6 months of recovery from my heart attack, I've shared this with you before, but it's worth sharing again. I couldn't do anything in a hurry. At first, I simply couldn't. There was no hurry left in me. My reservoir of energy and stamina was very limited. Seemed like there was no taper to it. It just fell off and quickly. Well, and here's the other part. I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't have to hurry to anything. All I had in my life at that point was doctor's appointments, eating, sleeping. I mean, it was just, I didn't have to hurry. Well, up to that point in my adult life, I was always in a hurry. Some of this, I'd even say most of that, came from the fact that I overscheduled, I overcommitted, I overestimated what I could do and the time it was going to take. So I was always behind the eight ball. I was always running behind. I drove above the speed limit because I was late for everything. But when I was in this 6-month period, you don't hurry, okay? I remember for about the first 8 weeks, they wouldn't let me drive. And so, for 8 weeks, I was stuck. I couldn't even walk around the cul-de-sac in our neighborhood without having to go home and lay down. It was stupid. If ever there was a time that I could really relate to St. Francis referring to his body as Brother Ass, it was in that time frame. Anyway, after about 8 weeks, they said, okay, you can drive now. Finally got my car running because it had been sitting in the garage. I hadn't been started or driven in 8 weeks. I finally got it started. And I went out we lived near the Beltway in Las Vegas, and I got onto the Beltway, and I thought I was doing 80 miles an hour. I looked down at my speedometer, and it was 45. And what I realized was I felt like I was going faster than I was. And eventually, of course, my brain and senses caught up to the reality of how fast is the speed limit and so forth. But I also realized I had grown to enjoy, to like not being in a hurry. So I decided I wasn't going to be in a hurry. And gosh, for about a year, I was able to do that. And it was odd. One of the reasons it was odd is because I liked not hurrying, but a lot of people around me didn't. I mean, they were still in the hurry mode. Well, here's one of the big things I learned during that time of not hurrying. It sounds silly, probably, but I think it's big. I learned that you cannot really be thankful in a hurry. Well, think about it. If you're in a hurry, where is your focus? It's getting to what you're late for. Okay? And if you're focusing on that, and now I'm thinking about the reality of getting around on Las Vegas freeways, there are a lot of really dumb drivers. Well, most of them are because they don't drive like me. So I'm constantly, I'm 5 minutes behind. Give me a break. That's so stupid. Get off the road if you can't do anything. Okay, so where's my focus? Well, It's in a lot of places, but I'll tell you where it's not. It's not on gratitude. In my life, I have found that I can't be thankful and in a hurry. If I'm going to be thankful, I have to slow down, because this thankful thing, this gratitude deal, requires reflection. Now, there are probably people who can reflect while they're in a hurry. I was not one of them. I'm still not. When I slowed down, it gave me time to reflect and to be grateful. Paul said, I thank God. I really believe that one of the at least somewhat missing pieces in the modern church, why don't you pick a denomination, is that we're not very grateful. We're very concerned about all kinds of things, and some of them are even worth our thought and contemplation, and right, okay, but a lot of them are not. I wonder in the nearly the closing words of the Sermon on the Mount. Well, it wasn't really. It's at the end of Matthew chapter 6. In verse 33, Jesus says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." Right before that, He said, "Hey, don't worry about what you will eat and what you will wear. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow's got enough worry in itself." Why is He? I think one of the reasons is obviously because worry, to worry is not the same thing as being concerned. Concern is probably okay. And in fact, there are times when concern is absolutely right. Worry pushes the concern out of perspective. Well, why would Jesus say, don't get all wrapped around the axle of these things? One of the reasons I believe is because it's hard to be thankful when you're wrapped around the axle of how am I going to get, where's it going to come from, when will it happen, how do I plan? That essentially what that does is it doesn't just impede your gratitude, it makes gratitude virtually impossible. Paul writes 3 words: I thank God. Here's the application. How often in your prayers, now a lot of us struggle with meditation, but almost all of us do contemplation, even without categorizing what I'm doing as contemplation. But in your meditation, contemplation, prayers, how much do you express thanksgiving and gratitude? Psychological research verifies over and over and over again that intentional gratitude creates mental health and sustains and supports it. So if you're not already, here's my challenge. Start the day in gratitude. You don't have to make it difficult or overly religious. Just be grateful and identify what you're grateful for. And then, at the close of the day, be grateful. Well, I'll see you next time on Soul Care with Stevie Boy.